In the heart of the great savannah, nestled between rolling hills and the vast expanse of golden grass, lay the village of Akwa. It was a place of warmth and community, where elders gathered under the shade of towering baobab trees to share stories, and children played in the sun until dusk painted the sky in hues of red and purple. Among the children of Akwa, there was one whose name was often spoken with a mixture of fondness and frustration, Akwa. Akwa was a boy of 10 winters, small but sprightly, with a mischievous glint in his eye. He lived with his grandmother, who was known far and wide for her wisdom. She had raised him after his parents passed away, and she loved him dearly, though she struggled to tame his restless spirit. Akwa was a clever boy, but his cleverness often led him astray. He had a penchant for stealing, though he never took from those who had less. His targets were always the wealthier villagers, whose homes were filled with shiny trinkets and golden artifacts. He would sneak into their huts at night, his feet silent on the earth, and slip away with their valuables before the sun rose. He was a master of evasion, and no one had ever caught him. One afternoon, when the sun hung low and the sky was a deep blue, Akwa found himself drawn to the palace of King Kofi, the ruler of Akwa. The palace was a grand structure, with walls made of smooth stone and tall, elegant columns that reached toward the heavens. It was said that the king had treasures beyond imagination: golden jewelry, silk robes from distant lands, and rare artifacts that had been passed down for generations. Akwa's curiosity could not be contained. As he walked past the palace gates, his eyes were caught by a sparkling gem that lay on a stone pedestal within the courtyard. The gem was said to be a gift from the gods, and it shone with a light that seemed to come from another world. Akwa, filled with greed and temptation, decided to steal it. He carefully climbed over the palace wall, his heart racing in his chest. But as soon as his feet touched the ground inside the courtyard, disaster struck. The guards, hidden in the shadows, saw him at once. They sprang from their posts, grabbing Akwa by the arms and pinning him to the ground. His heart pounded in his chest as they dragged him to the royal throne room. King Kofi sat on his golden throne, a stern look on his face. The room was grand, with tapestries depicting the history of Akwa hanging from the walls. His eyes, sharp as a hawk's, fixed on the trembling boy before him. "Akwa, you have stolen from me," the king's voice echoed throughout the room. "Do you know what that means? Do you understand the consequences of your actions?" Akwa, terrified, could barely speak. He stammered, "Please, Your Majesty, I didn't mean any harm. I was just curious. I never meant to. I didn't think." The king raised his hand, silencing him. "You took what did not belong to you. You have disrespected the customs of this land, and the trust of your people. What is your punishment, Akwa?" The young boy fell to his knees, tears welling in his eyes. "Please, Your Majesty, forgive me. I will never steal again. I promise. I don't know what came over me." The king leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "You have broken the law, and you must face the consequences. However, I believe there is still hope for you. I will not have you executed, as many would have demanded. Instead, you will spend the next 7 days in the king's pit, the deepest and darkest place in the palace grounds. There, you will reflect on your actions. Afterward, I will decide whether you have learned your lesson." Akwa's heart sank as the guards dragged him away. He had heard stories of the king's pit, a place where prisoners were left to face their own fears and regrets. It was said that those who came out of the pit were never the same again. Some came back stronger, while others never spoke of what they had endured. The pit was a small, dark cavern, cold and damp. As Akwa was thrown into it, the heavy stone door slammed shut behind him. The air was thick with the smell of earth and decay, and the only sound was the faint drip of water echoing through the darkness. Akwa sat on the cold ground, his mind racing. He had never been this scared before. For the first time in his life, he felt truly alone. Days passed, and Akwa began to reflect on his life. He thought of his grandmother, who had raised him with love and care, and the villagers who trusted him. He thought of all the times he had taken things without thinking of the consequences. The food from the neighboring farmers' fields, the cloth from the weaver's stall, the shiny trinkets from the wealthy merchants. He had always taken without giving, always taken without considering how his actions affected others. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned a deep orange, Akwa sat in the pit, looking up at the narrow sliver of light that crept through the top. His mind cleared, and for the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to live with honor. The next morning, King Kofi came to the pit. He opened the door and looked down at the boy. Akwa stood up slowly, his heart still heavy with the weight of his actions, but there was a new determination in his eyes. "I have learned, Your Majesty," Akwa said, his voice steady. "I have learned that stealing is not just about taking what does not belong to me. It is about the harm I cause to others. I have hurt my people, and I have hurt myself. I vow to live with honor from now on, to earn what I have and to always act with justice in my heart." The king studied Akwa for a long moment. Then, he nodded. "You have learned the most important lesson, young one. A person is not defined by their mistakes, but by the wisdom they gain from them. You may leave the pit, but your true journey has just begun." From that day forward, Akwa became a different boy. He returned to his village, not as a thief, but as a protector of his people. He worked alongside the elders, helping those in need, earning the trust of the villagers. He became known for his wisdom and fairness, always striving to make the right choices. He never forgot the lessons he learned in the king's pit, and he shared them with others, teaching the children of Akwa to live just lives. And so, Akwa, the boy who had once stolen from others, became a man of honor, living a life that inspired those around him.